Welcome to the Bhagavatam. Welcome to the Bhagavatam. Today we're going to talk about divine and demoniac people, beings. According to the Bhagavad Gita, there are two kinds of created beings, divine and demonic, or anti-divine, or godly and ungodly, sura and asura. Those are the actual words used, sura and asura. They don't actually translate to demoniac, so I don't think I want to confuse you with, trying to bring up images of some creatures with horns and red-looking devils. No, it's talking about certain qualities that people have, and those qualities can be either divine or not divine. The divine beings, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, have the following qualities. They are fearless. They believe in and understand the importance of purifying one's existence. They cultivate spiritual knowledge. They engage in charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, sacrificing something, not just everything's just for me. Study of spiritual literature, austerity. I don't know, most people even practice this anymore, austerity. Trying to do things that are difficult so you can achieve a higher goal. Simplicity, nonviolence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation or detachment, tranquillity, aversion to fault-finding. I think if we just did this one thing here, we'd have a saner world, we'd have a happier world. Compassion for all living entities, that too, I think would make a huge difference. Freedom from covetousness, envy, wanting to have that which the other person has. Gentleness, I think we've lost total track of that. Modesty, miles away from that one. Steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and the passion for honor. Oh my God. I think we've come a long way from these divine qualities that the Gita talks about. So it says these transcendental qualities belong to those endowed with divine nature. Now it isn't totally just black and white. We may have some of these qualities and others maybe we need to work on. But then let's understand the opposite, so that we're not just, because we don't have one or two of these qualities, we're just kind of, I must be some horrible person, I'm a demoniac person. No. The ungodly, the non-divine, the atheistic beings are known by the following qualities. So atheist is not just because you don't believe in God, but you have certain qualities. It's not just about your faith, it's not just about your belief, but it's about your character. It's about how you live your life. And so it says, pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance of spirituality or your spiritual self. These are the qualities of the ungodly or the non-divine people. They do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness, nor proper behavior, nor truth is found in them. They say that this world is unreal, with no foundation, no God in control. They say it is produced of sexual desire and has no other cause than lust. Following such conclusions, they are lost to themselves and have no spiritual intelligence. As a result, they engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. And you'll see this with our capitalistic society and communistic society as well. I'm not trying to condone one or the other. But you'll see this, that everything is done out of greed. What's in it for me? What can I make out of this? And it doesn't matter what happens to everybody else. Whether the thing I'm producing, the bridge, the road, the whatever lasts, who cares? As long as I got money, I don't care. As long as I benefit, I don't care. And so that's the point. And when it says unbeneficial, horrible works, it's not just about those works that are done because of greed, but also so much of our sciences, which have supposedly produced good things for us, which have done so much to make progress, have also, because of our ignorance, led to the worst calamities in our climate, the worst calamities in our health, the worst calamities in all areas of our life. Our quality of life, instead of being better, is actually a million times worse. We are not peaceful. We have got mental disease like we've never had before. We've got violence and corruption like we've never had before. And this is because of our so-called economic progress that we've made. They continues in saying they take shelter of insatiable lust. Now, lust here is not just sexual. Of course, there is that. But there's also desire, insatiable desire. I want more and more and more and more. If I have millions of dollars, I want billions of dollars. If I want to have billions, I want trillions. It's insatiable. So taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, they live in illusion, attracted by the impermanent. What is the impermanent? It's the stuff of the world. They're attracted to that. Truly spiritual people understand that none of that makes any sense. The stuff of the world is impermanent, is temporary. It will only cause attachment, and then there will be grief and suffering when I lose it. Truly spiritual people understand that the permanent thing is my soul, is spirit, is that which I am, and that which is the divine or God. Those things are worth investing our energy in. Those things are what will give us true happiness. To continue further, the non-divine or asura or demonic person, whichever word you prefer to use, believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Take this one line. I think you'll find this is everywhere. It's almost like we don't question it. That to enjoy, to eat, drink, and be merry is the goal of life. But is it really? Is it just all about eat, drink, and then what happens? You get old after a while. You can't enjoy your senses anymore the way you used to. Then you die. And what happened? What was the outcome of your life? What did you gain? When you review your life after death, what will you say you gained? Oh, I had a great time. Really? And you lost it all? It was just temporary gratification of your senses, and that's all you achieved? What did you gain spiritually? No idea. What did you gain in terms of really developing yourself as a human being? Did you develop the divine qualities? No idea what those even are. So they says that thus until the end of life, their anxiety is immeasurable, bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires and absorbed in lust and anger. They secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. In this part of the Bhagavatam, we're going to learn how Krishna, the Supreme Being, incarnates in this world to protect the divine or saintly or devoted beings and destroy the evil that is prevailing in the world. This was 3000 BC, so 5,000 years ago. And we can all take hope from this message and know that if you are on a genuine spiritual path, then God will have your back and always protect you. That doesn't mean that things will always be rosy and nice. It doesn't mean that God is your Santa Claus who's going to provide all your needs and desires. These are stupid ideas made up by religious people. And that's why people got turned off of religion and turned away to spirituality or atheism. But the reality is that that's not God. That's just some made up hocus pocus by people. All that stuff about hell and all that stuff about, God is supposed to do this for me and that for me and fix my problems. And no. So it doesn't mean that because we have an understanding of who we are and who our source or God is, it doesn't mean that things will always be rosy and nice. No, in fact, you may see more trials and tribulations than most people, for that is the nature of this world. But through all the ups and downs, you will know peace and security and genuine safety. With that, let's get started. So today we're on the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter number 36, and we're doing the pastimes of Krishna, his life. And this is the part where it's the slaying of Arista, the bull demon. Now, during the time of Krishna, there's a whole backstory here. If you're just joining for the first time, it's going to be hard to explain it all. We've done about, 30 or 40 episodes or more already on the life of Krishna. And if you can start, on the playlist for that, it's on my website, on my YouTube channel. and you'll find it there as the Leela, or the pastimes of Krishna. And it's on Spiritual Wisdom Academy, so you'll find it there. All right, the demon Arista came to the cowherd village. So now he came in the form of a bull. This is a time when people had tremendous yogic powers, and with their yogic powers, they were able to do various things that we think of as impossible today. One of the things they were able to do was shape-shifting. They could take on different forms. They could also be in different places instantly. They didn't need airplanes and rockets to get from one place to another, or different parts of the universe, but could travel there with the powers inherent within us. If we raise our vibration to a higher level, to a more subtle level, we're able to do amazing things. Now, some of those things are good, and some of those things are evil. So depending on how a person is inclined, they can use the same thing in different ways. A knife, for example, can be used to cut some fruit, but the same knife can be used to kill someone. So the yogic mystical powers were misused, and in this case it was Arista, who was a demonic in nature is what I mean, who had taken the form of a bull and come to where Krishna was. He had been sent by the king Kans. Kans had heard that Krishna is going, that someone has been born who is going to kill him, and he was sending out these asuras, these demons, to go out and try to find that child and have him killed. So at this point, Arista appeared in the form of a bull with a large hump. He made the earth tremble as he tore it apart with his hoofs. I'll give you a little image of how scared people were. Arista bellowed very harshly and pawed the ground with his tail raised and his eyes glaring. He began to tear up the embankments with the tips of his horns, and every now and then passing a little stool and urine. Clouds hovered about sharp-horned Aristasura's hump, mistaking it for a mountain, and when the cowherd men and ladies caught sight of the demon, they were struck with terror. Indeed, the strident reverberation of his roar was so frightening that pregnant cows and women lost their fetuses in miscarriages. The domestic animals fled the pasture in fear, and all the inhabitants rushed for shelter, crying, "Krishna, Krishna." Now, this is a time, as I was saying, when Krishna, the Supreme Being, had come to this earth, had incarnated. And the sign of being that Supreme Being, who Christ refers to as the Father, the sign of being that being is that he's invincible. No one's able to kill him. No one's able to destroy him. In fact, all the demons that were trying to kill him were all killed by him. At this point, he was about, I'd say, around 10 to 11 years old. So when Krishna saw the cowherd community distraught and fleeing in fear, he calmed them, saying, "Don't be afraid." Then he called out the bull demon as follows: "Fool, what do you think you're doing? You wicked rascal, frightening the cowherd community and their animals, when I am here just to punish corrupt miscreants like you?" Someone told me recently, "What is this word miscreant?" And they had a point. It's not something we say anymore. So I think I might explain it. It means someone who is a wrongdoer, a criminal, one who harms people, an evil being, a psychopath might be another word. Someone who is cruel and vicious and enjoys harming people. So Krishna says, I come to this earth millennium after millennium to annihilate the miscreants, to annihilate such troublemakers. We're not left alone. We're not alone. Right? So he says, I've come to punish corrupt miscreants like you. Having spoken these words, the infallible Lord Hari slapped his arms with his palms. Oh, yeah. Come on, let's wrestle. Further angering Arista with a loud sound, Krishna then casually threw his mighty arm over the shoulder of a friend and stood facing the demon. Thus provoked, Arista pawed the ground with one of his hooves And then with the clouds hovering around his upraised tail, furiously charged Krishna. Now you might say, what is the relevance of all of this in my life? I don't have demons around me. I don't have anyone who's out to kill me. And you're right. Things have become very subtle in our time. There aren't beings who are now shape-shifting and taking on these kind of forms, but they look just like us. And they do harm to others. So that's one kind. But there's another kind. There's the kind that live in our mind, that provoke us to do harm, that provoke us to think ill of others, that provoke us to be against our true spiritual nature, that provoke us to be unkind, to be nasty, to be mean, to be hurtful, to betray, to lie, to cheat, to do all kinds of things and tell us, oh, it's okay, you can get away with it, it's fine. There's a voice in our head. What is that voice? You're a pure spiritual being. You should be hearing the voice of your soul, which is going to guide you towards doing divine things. But we're not able to hear that voice because there's a loud voice in our head that is constantly harassing us, telling us how we are so terrible, how others are so terrible, how the world is so terrible, and causing us to feel depressed and anxious, or to begin quarreling with others, or to become greedy, or to become selfish. All of that is taking us away from our divine nature. So notice how Krishna is dealing with this kind of energy by standing very confidently. How can you stand like that? How will you and I do that? We're not the supreme being. We're not God. Well, the way you do that is by knowing who you are, that I am a pure spiritual being, and that none of this can harm me if I don't buy into it. That doesn't mean you avoid it. It doesn't mean you run away from it. It doesn't mean you put your head under the sand and pretend such things don't exist. They absolutely do. But you need to arm yourself. You need to be a spiritual warrior. That means to become deeply connected with your spiritual essence. Connected with means identified with, not identified with your mind, not identified with your ego, not identified with your possessions, but identified with your true spiritual self. That is the nature of who we are. So coming in touch with that is what frees us from all of these kind of entities and all of these kind of beings. Can you hear me? I just saw a message here that says the person cannot hear me. If you can hear me, just write down yes. Those of you that are on Instagram or that are there on YouTube, whoever's here, if you could please reply, I'd be very grateful. It looks from my end that everything's working fine, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it looks all right from what I can tell. So please let me know if there is any problem. I'm going to continue. Okay. Having spoken these words, the infallible Lord Sri Hari stopped, slapped his arms with his palms, as I was saying earlier, and with a loud sound, Krishna then casually threw his arm over the friend and stood facing the demon. He's like, all right, what you got? Bring it on. I'm not scared of you. Thus provoked, Arista pawed the ground with one of his hooves, and then, with the clouds hovering around his upraised tail, furiously charged at Krishna. pointing the tips of his horns straight ahead and glaring menacingly at Krishna from the corners of his bloodshot eyes, Arista rushed him at full speed like a thunderbolt. Krishna seized Arista by the horns and threw him back 18 steps, just as an elephant might do when fighting a rival elephant. Arista got up, breathing hard and sweating all over his body again, and charged Krishna in mindless rage. As Arista attacked, Krishna seized him by the horns and knocked him to the ground with his foot. He then thrashed Arista as if he were a wet cloth and finally yanked out one of the demon's horns and struck him till he lay prostrate. Vomiting blood and profusely excreting stool and urine, kicking his legs and rolling his eyes about, Arista went painfully to the abode of death. The demigods honored Krishna by scattering flowers upon him. Having thus killed the bull demon Arista, he who is a festival for all his devotees, and especially for the gopis of Vrindavan, entered the village of Vrindavan with his brother Balaram. Now, after Arista had been killed by Krishna, Narad Muni went to speak to King Kans. I don't know if you know about Narad Muni. He's a great sage. And he's often involved in, doing things that speed things up, I should say. Speed up the Leela, speed up the pastime. So this is a picture of Narad Muni. And Narad is, in this case, come to the king Kans. When he comes to see the king, he brings him a message. And this message is very, very interesting. What he says to the king is that Yashoda's child, so now he's giving him the inside truth, the secret that nobody knew. He's telling him that Yashoda's child was actually a daughter, and Krishna is the son of Devaki. So again, if you've been following from the beginning, you'd know who I'm talking about. But Krishna was born to, I should start from the beginning. There was a king, Kans. Kans had been told by a voice in the sky that foretold that he would be killed by the son of his sister, the 8th son of his sister, Devaki. So he immediately was going to kill his sister, but then the sister's husband, they just got married, pleaded with him and said, look, her son is going to kill you. I give you my word that all her children I will give to you. You do what you want. And so Kans put Devaki and Vasudeva into jail just because that way he could monitor what was going on and he could find out who the 8th child was. So one by one, he killed all the children born to his sister Devaki. However, the 8th child appeared to be a girl. And this is because Krishna had been born and he staged a very interesting event. He has arranged for his father to be able to take him out of the jail, to another family, Nanda and Yashoda, who had just had a baby girl. And so his father, Vasudeva, brought back the baby girl to the jail. The king, when he heard that the baby had been born, they pleaded with him, look, it's a girl. She's not going to kill you. What can she do? She's not going to harm you. You're a king. You're a mighty emperor. He wouldn't listen. He took the baby girl, smashed her to the ground, and killed her. All this time, when he killed her, she arose into the sky in front of the king and told him, the one who is going to kill you has already taken birth and is somewhere else. The king was in total and absolute panic. He started sending out all kinds of beings like Arista and the others that you came across you've come across if you've been listening to the pastimes, to try and find the babies that had been born and kill them. But he hadn't succeeded so far. And now the sage Narad had come to his court and was telling him that that baby had already been born. So this is Narad coming to the court of King Kans, or some say Kams, whatever, and telling him what has actually happened. So he's telling him that Yashoda's child was actually a daughter, and Krishna is the son of Devaki, the actual one who was supposed to kill the king. Also, Balaram is the son of Rohini. Out of fear, Vasudeva, the birth father of Krishna, entrusted Krishna and Balaram to his friend Nanda, and it is those two boys who have killed your men, or all the people that you've been sending. Upon hearing this, Kams became furious and lost control of his senses. He picked up a sharp sword to kill Vasudeva, the husband of his sister Devaki. But Narad restrained him, reminding him that it was the two sons of Vasudeva who would cause his death, not their father. Kans then had Vasudeva and his wife shackled in irons. They had betrayed him, they had lied to him. Then Narad left, and Kans now came up with a strategy. He surrounded himself with a bunch of people and started giving out orders. He summoned the Keshi demon and ordered him, go kill Krishna and Balaram. So that's the first person he sent out, Keshi. He then called for his ministers and his elephant keepers, and the king addressed them as follows. Chanura and Mushtik, these are two wrestlers. Balaram and Krishna, the sons of Anakadundubi or Vasudeva, are living in Nanda's cowherd village. It has been predicted that these two boys will be the cause of my death. And when they are brought here, I want you to kill them on the pretext of engaging them in a wrestling match. Erect a wrestling ring with many surrounding viewing stands and bring all the residents of the city and the outlying districts to see the open competition. So in other words, he was inviting Krishna and Balaram to come into a wrestling match and be killed by his most powerful wrestlers, Chanur and Mushtik. He then ordered the elephant keeper. He says, look, I want you to position your elephant, Kuvalyapid, at the entrance of the wrestling arena, and before they can even enter it, have them killed, those two boys, Krishna and Balaram. And then he ordered, commence the bow sacrifice on the Chaturdashi day in accordance with the Vedic injunctions, and in ritual slaughter, offer the appropriate kinds of animals. So he wanted to please Shiva. He was a devotee of Shiva. He wanted to please Shiva and pray that his enemies would be killed. Now, Shiva is a devotee of Krishna. He's not going to listen to such prayer. He loves Krishna. Thus, having commanded his ministers, Kams next called for Akrura, the most eminent of the Yadu dynasty. So this Akrura was a relative of Krishna. And the king was now going to send Krishna's relative, Akrura, to bring Krishna to Mathura. So Krishna lived in Vrindavan, which was some distance away from Mathura. In today's time, it would take you about maybe a half hour to travel from Mathura to Vrindavan. But in those days, it might have taken a lot longer if you're going by horse or by different other kind of carriage. So he then tried to win over Akrura because Akrura was, so he said, if those, if all the people he sent to kill Krishna weren't successful, then alternate strategy was needed. So he was working on alternate strategies, one after the other. And so now, because Akrura was related to Krishna, he said to him, he tried to win him over. He knew the art of securing personal advantage, and thus he took Akrura's hand in his own and spoke to him as follows. My dear Akrura, most charitable one, please do me a friendly favor out of respect. Among our dynasties, there is no one as kind as you. Gentle Akrura, you always carry out your duties soberly in a very thorough and diligent way, and therefore I'm depending on you. Just as powerful Indra took shelter of Vishnu to achieve his goals. So he's putting Akrura on a pedestal. Please go to Vrindavan, where the two sons of Vasudeva are living, and without delay bring them here on this chariot. He's giving him a chariot and everything. The demigods who are under the protection of Vishnu have sent these two boys as my death. So he's blaming the devas, the demigods, because he's an asura, a demonic person. He says, oh, they want to kill me. So bring these two boys here and also have their father, Nanda, and the other cowherd men come with gifts of tribute. After you bring Krishna and Balaram, I will have them killed by my elephant, who is powerful as death itself. And if by chance they escape from him, I will have them killed by my wrestlers, who are strong as lightning. When these two boys have been killed, I will kill Vasudev, the birth father, and all their lamenting relatives. I will also kill my old father, Ugrasena, who is greedy for my kingdom, and I will kill his brother Devaka and all my other enemies as well. Then, my friend, this earth will be free of thorns. Notice his way of thinking. The Bhagavad Gita says in the 4th chapter, pride, no, this is actually in the 16th chapter, text number 4. He's describing the qualities of the asura, the demonic person or the ungodly person. He says, pride, arrogance, conceit, harshness, and ignorance. These are the qualities of a asura. The demonic person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give in charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. So that's from the Bhagavad Gita. I read you part of it earlier, and this is the remaining part. My elder relative, Jarasandha, and my dear friend Dvivida are well-wishers of mine, as are Shambhara, Narak, and Bana. I will use them all to kill off these kings who are allied with the devas, the demigods, and then I will rule the earth. Now that you understand my intentions, Akrura, please go at once and bring Krishna and Balaram to watch the bow sacrifice and see the opulence of the Yadu's capital. That is his capital. Akrura said, O king, you have expertly devised a process to free yourself of misfortune. Still, one should be equanimous, one should be equal in success and failure, since it is certainly destiny that produces the result of one's work, of one's karma. An ordinary person is determined to act on his desires, even when fate prevents their fulfillment. Therefore, he encounters both happiness and distress. Yet even though such is the case, I will execute your order. Now, Akrura knows who Krishna is. He understands that Kants will have no power in front of Krishna. He is fully aware of the truth. But he's trying to advise the king to be thoughtful, that this is part of his karma. If he has to die by the hands of the Supreme Being or God, well, that's a blessing. If he has to survive, that's a blessing. He should understand his own karma, his own actions have led to this point. And one should therefore be equal in success and failure, he says. It's very difficult to do, isn't it? To be equal in success and failure. Would you be okay with either success or failure? Or would you be distraught when there is failure, completely devastated, and completely exhilarated when there is success? That's natural, right? That's how we are. But the spiritual texts of the Vedas teach us, and the Bhagavad Gita teaches us, to be equal in success and failure, in happiness and distress, in gain and loss. In all situations, whether it's summer or winter. It says like happiness and distress are like winter and summer seasons. They have their appearance and their disappearance, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So that is a very profound teaching, and not easy to do, I must say. It's something to keep in mind, though. It's something to try and live by. It's something to try and keep your attention on, because things will go up and will go down. Things will go the way you want, and things will not go the way you want. That's generally how life goes. Kans then, the king, dismissed his ministers and retired to his quarters, and Akrura went home. This is Krishna's relative. Now, meanwhile, the scene shifts over to Vrindavan, which is the place where Krishna was living. Krishna is the supreme being. He is at this point about 11 years of age. So another demon, Keshi, who had been sent by Kans, now appeared in Vrindavan as a great horse. Running with the speed of the mind, he tore up the earth with his hoofs. The hairs of his mane scattered the clouds, and he terrified everyone present with his loud neighing. Seeing Krishna standing before him, Keshi ran towards him in extreme rage, his mouth gaping as if to swallow up the sky. Rushing with furious speed, the unconquerable and unapproachable horse demon tried to strike the lotus-eyed Krishna with his two front legs. But the transcendental Krishna dodged Keshi's blow, and then with his arms angrily seized him by the legs and whirled him around in the air, and then contemptuously threw him the distance of 100 bow lengths, like quite a distance, just as an eagle might throw a snake. And then Krishna then just stood there, watching. What is he going to do now? Upon regaining consciousness, Keshi angrily got up, opened his mouth wide, and again rushed to attack Krishna. But Krishna just smiled and thrust his left arm into the horse's mouth as easily as one would make a snake enter a hole in the ground. I'm not sure on Instagram if you can see this. I try to make things fit, but it's not always easy. Well, maybe the next one helps. Keshi's teeth immediately fell out when they touched the Supreme Lord's arm, which to the asura, the demon, felt as hot as Krishna's arm felt as hot as molten iron. Within Keshi's body, Krishna's arm expanded greatly and completely blocked Keshi's breathing, while his legs kicked convulsively and his body became covered with sweat and his eyes rolled around. The demon then passed stool and fell on the ground dead. The mighty armed Krishna withdrew his arm from Keshi's body, which now appeared like a long fruit. Without the least display of pride at having so effortlessly killed his enemy, Krishna accepted the demigod's worship in the form of flowers rained down from above. Now, most people could probably not see those flowers raining down, but the devas were honoring Krishna. They were witnessing this whole thing. So this is called Leela. These are the pastimes of the divine. Why does he do them? He does them for us to know that he's there for us. He does these pastimes for us to know that he will always protect us. He does this to let us know that he is all-powerful and that nothing can harm him, and we don't have to worry. Now, at this point, Narad Muni, the great sage among the devas, approached Krishna in a solitary place. So this is again Narad Muni, great sage, and he has come once again to do his thing. So here's a little inside thing about Narad. Narad is a great sage, very enlightened, highly evolved, able to travel all across the universe and with his mystical powers. And he is assisting the pastimes of Krishna. You see, Krishna was having a wonderful time in Vrindavan, enjoying with the gopis, enjoying with the cowherd boys, enjoying with the family members. But he had a certain thing that he'd come to this earth to do, besides giving pleasure to all his loved ones and his devotees. And that was to annihilate the miscreants on this earth. Now, Narad, the great sage, was feeling the time has come. He's very tuned in with Krishna and what needs to be done. So to assist him, he had gone to the king and spilled the beans, told him the truth. And now he has come to Krishna and come to let him know what has happened and how things are moving forward. So at this point, Narad says, "O Krishna, O Krishna, Krishna, Aprameya Atman, O immeasurable one, O Yoga Isha, O source of all mystic power, O Jagatishwara, O Lord of the universe, O Vasudev, shelter of all beings, and the best of the Yadu dynasty. O Master, you are the Paramatma, the supreme soul of all created beings. The word used is Tvam Atma Sarva Bhutanam, right? You are the soul, the supreme soul of all created beings. And you are sitting unseen within the cave of the heart, like a fire dormant within kindling wood. So you know how fire sits dormant within wood, and if you have, you take the kindling and you can spark it with another flame or with something like friction, then the fire that is present within the wood will come out. Similarly, God is present within the cave of our heart and will emerge when we know how to light that fire. There are three things that ignite that fire. And these three things are given to us by highly evolved beings, the gurus, the rishis, the saintly people. And those three things are nama, when we chant the names of God, rupa, when we meditate on his form, and lila, when we listen to the pastimes of the divine as we're doing right now. Those things ignite the presence of the divine who is within your heart. And when that presence is ignited, that supreme soul begins to now become an active part of your life, begins to guide you from within. And yes, you do have to quiet this noisy mind to be able to hear that inner voice, but it means you're ready. The fact is that you're calling out to him. You're saying, I want you in my life. I've had enough of all the miseries of this world. I've seen through the illusions. I've seen through the veil. And I am ready now to find out more about who I am and about who you are, and to revive the loving relationship between us. I'm ready, right? So he's sitting within the unseen, within the cave of the heart. He says, Narad says, you are Sakshi, the witness within everyone. So when you talk about the observer, the witness, that is Parameshwar or Krishna. You are the witness within everyone. You are Mahapurusha, the supreme personality, and Ishvara, the ultimate controlling deity. So why do I bring up the Sanskrit words? Because for those who want to go deeper, you'll understand that these are genuinely what is being said. In the ancient Vedas, they are acknowledging Krishna, even though he is at that time only 11 years old, as the supreme being. How can the supreme being be 11 years old? Some people think he's an old man. Krishna says, although, he tells Arjun, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. He says, many, many lives both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot. So that's the nature of God, that he is not some old man. He's rather eternally youthful. The word is Nava Yovana. He's eternally youthful. And he's not just he, he's he and she. We don't talk about she until we did actually talk a lot about Radha, the supreme, divine, and most glorious being. In fact, those who are true devotees of Krishna know that you cannot even begin to approach him unless you have Radha on your side. She is the source of his worship. She is the feminine aspect of Krishna and he is the masculine aspect of Radha. So, yeah. Narad continues, you are the shelter of all souls. And being the supreme controller, you fulfill your desires simply by your will, by your personal creative potency. You manifested the beginning of the primal modes of material nature, and through their agency you create, maintain, and then destroy this universe. You, that very same creator, have now descended to the earth to annihilate the Rakshasa, man-eating demons who are posing as kings, and also to protect the godly. The Bhagavad Gita, the same thing is said by Krishna later on, just before the battle of Mahabharata. He says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijami aham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in dharma, Religious practice is a general way of saying that, but dharma is actually the way of human living, the way we're meant to live, the codes of conduct that are meant for divine living. We are not meant to live like animals, eat, drink, and be merry. We are here to cultivate our spirituality, to cultivate our divine love. So whenever there's a decline in that system, he says, at that time, I descend myself. I personally descend. Now, the horse demon, Narada is saying, the horse demon Keshi was so terrifying that his neighing frightened even the devas in the heavenly kingdom. But by our good fortune, you have enjoyed the sport of killing him. Now, this reveals something very important. Krishna does this as sport. To him, this is fun, this is play, this is lila, this is enjoyment. It's nothing serious. His main thing is to give pleasure to the devotees. And when they see all this sport and he sees he's able to destroy the most powerful of beings and nothing can harm them, then it's like a child who's holding, daddy or mommy's hand and sees all kinds of things happening, but he knows I'm safe. So that kind of safety is what we all long for. We want to be safe, but none of us is safe because we live in a body that is fragile. And this fragile body is subject to birth and death and old age and disease. It is subject to all kinds of mishaps. And therefore we live in fear and anxiety. But when we have the Supreme Being as our shelter, when we have surrendered to that Supreme Being, when we know and we are connected with who that is, there is no fear. We live in fearlessness. We know that even if this body perishes, I will not perish. No matter what happens to me, I am loved, I am safe, I am secure, no matter what happens. When the world goes upside down or crazy or they kill everybody or whatever, it doesn't matter. I have taken shelter of that Supreme Being and I can feel it within me now, here. I don't have to wait to go to some heaven to find out. I can feel that presence here and now. It's that powerful. So now Narad starts to tell him what's going to happen because he already knows. Narad already knows the Leela. He knows the pastime. He knows what's going to come. And so what I'm going to read here for you is the predictions of Narad, which are actually going to happen, which will happen, and you'll see them in the next few episodes. He says, in the next 2 days, O Almighty Lord, I will see the deaths of the 2 wrestlers, Chanura and Mushtik, and other wrestlers. Along with those, I will see the death of the elephant Kuvalyapid, and king comes, all by your hand. And Krishna, by the way, was using no weapon at all by your hand. Then I will see you kill many other demons and steal the Parijata flower and defeat Indra. I will see you marry many daughters of heroic kings with your valor. Then, O Lord of the universe, he talks about this city of Dwarka that Krishna will build, and he will deliver King Nriga from a curse and take back the Shamantaka jewel together with another wife. So he goes on and on telling about what's going to come. There is a whole pastime of Krishna that we're going to be talking about. This is going to go on and on and on. There are many, many more episodes. And he talks about how the battle of Kurukshetra will take place and how the Pandavas will be engaged in that battle. And he says, subsequently I see you appear as time personified, serving as Arjun's chariot driver and destroying entire armies of soldiers to rid the earth of her burden. If I may approach you, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, refers to him, Krishna, as Bhagavantam, Bhagavan. Bhagavan means the Supreme Being, the source of all creation, Bhagavan. One who possesses all knowledge, knows everything, all fame, all beauty, all strength, all wealth, who owns everything, and who is completely detached from it all. So may I approach you, O Supreme Being, O Bhagavan, for shelter. You are Vishuddha Vijnana, the perfectly pure spiritual awareness. We've heard those terms, right? Awareness. Well, Krishna is Vishuddha, meaning perfectly pure. Vijnana, spiritual awareness. And you are always situated in your original identity. When Krishna comes to this world, he comes in a spiritual form, not a material form. He doesn't take a physical body. He comes in his spiritual form. That's why no one's able to kill him or harm him. He comes as he is because he wants us to see him for who he is. You see, God is not a mystery. Most of the religions of the world will not be able to tell you what God looks like. They will not be able to tell you what he does. They will not be able to tell you what his qualities are. They will not be able to tell you really anything about him. So how do you fall in love with someone who you know nothing about? So he says here, you come in your original identity. Since your will is never thwarted, you have already achieved all possible desirable things. So whatever you've desired will happen. And by the power of your spiritual energy, you remain nitya nivrita, that is, eternally free from the qualities of the illusions of this world, or Maya. You may remain nitya nivrita, right? Eternally nitya nivrita, free. A person who is a highly evolved being is nivrita. They are free from the illusions of this world, free from the matrix, if you want to use that term. He then says, I bow down to you, the Supreme Controller, who are dependent only on yourself. Now you have appeared as the greatest hero and have chosen to participate in human affairs. Narad then bowed down and offered Krishna obeisances. Then with the great sage took his leave and went away, feeling great joy at having directly seen Krishna. Now, after killing the demon Keshi in battle, Krishna continued to tend the cows and other animals in the company of his joyful cowherd friends. Thus he brought happiness to all the residents of Vrindavan. Now keep in mind, there are only 2 days left, and in 2 days he's going to be leaving. Akrura is going to be coming. He's been sent by the king Kans, and he's going to be asking Krishna to come along with him. 2 days are left, and in these 2 days, he's going to create some more miraculous activities along with his friends. So now, one of these days, the cowherd boys, while grazing their animals on top of Govardhan Hill, their cows, they were playing a game of stealing and hiding. They were playing a game of stealing and hiding, like cops and robbers, like that. They were acting out the roles of rival thieves and police. In that game, some acted as thief, others as police, and others as sheep. They played their game happily, without fear of danger. A powerful magician named Vyoma, the demon who flies in the sky, who was the son of the demon Maya, then appeared on the scene in the guise of a cowherd boy. So he took the form of a cowherd boy, pretending to join the game as a thief. He proceeded to steal most of the cowherd boys who were acting as sheep. Gradually, the great demon abducted more and more of the cowherd boys and cast them into a mountain. So he took them and he put them into a mountain cave, which he sealed with a boulder. Finally, only 4 or 5 boys acting as sheep remained in the game. Krishna, who shelters all his devotees, understood perfectly well what Vyoma was doing. Just as a lion grabs a wolf, Krishna forcefully seized the demon as he was taking away more cowherd boys. The demon changed into his original form. Remember, he had come looking as one of the cowherd boys, one of the friends of Krishna. The demon changed to his original form, as big and powerful as a great mountain, but try as he might to free himself, he could not do so. Having lost his strength by being held by Krishna in his tight grip, Krishna then clutched Vyoma between his arms and threw him to the ground, and then killed him just as an animal is killed in the slaughterhouse. Krishna then smashed the boulder, blocking the cave's entrance, and led the trapped cowherd boys to safety. Thereafter, as the devas and cowherd boys sang his glories, he returned to his village of Vrindavan. So with that, we're going to end the episode for today. I hope you've been here before and you've been enjoying all these narrations of Krishna's pastimes and the Bhagavatam. If you have questions, I'd love to hear them. Thank you for those who joined. I appreciate the comments. It sounds like you were able to hear me, so I appreciate you staying here for the entire thing. I want to know, what do you think? Is this beyond the possibility or the realm of your thought or imagination, keep in mind that everything you've been hearing has been narrated by the great sage Shukadev, who is speaking to King Parikshit, and the king is about to die in a matter of 7 days. Well, by now it's probably just a couple of days left. And the king has wanted to know, what is it that one should hear about or talk about before, when one is about to die? And at that point, the sage is a highly evolved being, a saintly person, right? Very, very highly evolved. Shukdev was like that. He was born highly evolved. Means in his past life, he had evolved massively and then come into this life. Already a liberated soul. Liberated means free from the illusions of this world, free from attachment to this world, free from identifying with this body, free from the miseries of this worldly life. So Shukdev is speaking to the king Parikshit and narrating all this to him as a fact. He is narrating what he has heard from his father Vyas. He is narrating what he has heard from Shiva originally. And these two incidents come together, and he is narrating the truth, Param Satyam, the highest truth, reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. That's the words he uses in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. So what are your thoughts? What if this was true? Far more true than the world, far more true than our technologies, far more true than everything else that we hold to be so real. What do you think? I'd love to know your thoughts. If you have some comment, you can write it right now, and I will reply right away. If not, then if you're watching this later on in the recordings on YouTube, I have the entire library on YouTube, Spiritual Wisdom Academy. You'll find it there. Or you can just type in my name at the rate Rohit Juneja, at Rohit Juneja on YouTube. You'll find me again that way. But you'll be able to go over the entire Bhagavatam. I think this might be the 100th episode. And then, of course, there's the entire Bhagavad Gita and many more things that I've put there, basically talking about psychology, talking about the mind, and talking about spirituality. So with all of that, I'm still waiting to see if there's any of you have any questions. Please write them down. If not, I'll hope to hear from you in the comments later on. Okay, so if there's nothing for now, I'll see you next week. I'll be back here Tuesday. Every week I'm here at 7 o'clock Pacific. 7 o'clock Pacific time, 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern. And if you're in India, then it'll be Wednesdays at 7:30 a.m. for now. That'll change with daylight savings time. All right. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. See you next week.